Good morning. Another day in the week in the life of Dick Ritchie. Today, let's talk about the ability and the inabilities of humans, people, to actually change. To notice that they're on a path, charting a course, possibly in the wrong direction. Noticing, recognizing this incorrect path, and if not incorrect path, maybe just not the best path, because there's so many paths that we can take. But you taking the time to consciously take a look around and say, something's wrong here. I'm on the wrong road. This isn't the road I belong on. This isn't the road I feel comfortable with. And actually making that U-turn or that right turn to another right turn, to be back, to take a left turn and then a left turn and be on the right road. That's a difficult thing to do, especially if that road has a lot of traffic. If that road's got a lot of traffic, it's got cars coming this way, it's got cars behind you, it's got cars in front of you, it's got cars on the other roads that are going on the same route that you're deciding to change or take or go on. And it makes it difficult, especially when those roads are crowded. Now what I'm doing there is drawing, I guess, an analogy. I'm drawing an example of when you have a lot of people in your life watching you. That's the traffic on the roads. A lot of times, those people will make you stay on that road because they'll honk their horn and say, no, you can't stop, you can't slow down, you can't think about where you're going, you have to keep going straight into that abyss. Or whatever. Pick all or any of your traffic scenarios that you can think of that keep you on that road that you didn't want to be on. Say you had to go to the store and you had to get some medication at the pharmacy, whatever it may be, milk at the grocery store. And you realize you got on the wrong road to get there. Now you got traffic all around you, cars all around you, and a blocked intersection that's saying, hey, we don't care that you needed to go to Kroger. We don't care. Because we want to go this way and we want you to go that way so that we don't have to stop and slow for you. Think about that. Is that the traffic you want in your life? You ever like driving and you pull up to a light, right? And the cars back up, and back up. And then there's this intersection kind of thing that comes from, say, another store or another parking lot. You know, like the courtesy rule is to not block that. But you got people blocking that. And now you're just sitting there because of that person that didn't want to just sit back one car length and let you in. That car in the left lane or the right lane that's driving too slow or right up on you and won't let you get over to get out of the way. You know, or when you're passing somebody and they were going slow and then they speed up because they don't want you to pass them. Those are people in your life sometimes. Change is difficult. Recharting your course is very hard. Taking a step back, stopping, thinking about what it is that you want to change because you don't like something that's going on in your life. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do, but it's very important that you do it. And you do it regardless of what the car behind you thinks, and what the car coming on thinks, and what the car off the road that you're going to turn off on thinks. It's brutally true that you stop, slow down, rechart your course, and get the hell off that road as soon as possible. Because if you don't, you're stuck on that road until the next turn. And that could be a long time. It could be a real long time. It could take you way out of your way. It could really set you off on a bad course in life, believe it or not. And all we were talking about was going to the grocery store. Yeah, but no, we're not talking about that. So I'm saying all this not from necessarily a personal perspective, but this is my Bud Light perspective right now. Bud Light made a bad choice earlier this year. They acted like they were going to possibly partner up with the transgender person, Dylan Mulvaney. They sent him a can of beer with his face on it. They acted as though they were getting ready. So what they did was they had bad intentions. They had somebody in the top, a few people in the top. There's 65,000 employees just for Bud Light. That's just Bud Light. Not Modelo, not all the other companies, but Bud Light. Well, maybe Modelo falls under Bud Light, but let's say Budweiser isn't Bud Light. I think they treat them as separate companies, and there's 65,000 employees, American employees that work for Bud Light. And then there was about 3 or 4 dimwits that made a really bad choice. And we boycotted them, and it worked. I boycotted them. My wife still drinks Bud Light because she's got a very particular palate when it comes to beer, and she likes a beer. Hard week at work, Friday night, we go out to dinner almost every Friday night. She'll get a Bud Light. I'm not going to judge her. She didn't falter. Good for her. I would drink a Bud Light with her. I stopped and I switched it to something else. I've slowly graduated back to Busch Light is what I prefer. Right there. But now I think I'm going to change it to Bud Light. And you say, oh, you're doing that just because Dana White with UFC has decided to take the $100 million for a 6-year contract as their lead beer advertiser? No, it has nothing to do with Dana White, necessarily. It has a lot to do with Dana White now in the afterthought. So when I heard this yesterday, I think it was, or the day before maybe, but yesterday I heard they signed a contract for $100 million for 6 years to be the beer of UFC. Now, originally, UFC was the only beer company, I believe, that would support the UFC in the very beginning. Not the very beginning, but early. So they were there for UFC early. That was back when it was okay to be a fratty beer. Then they made some mistakes and they hired some wrong people up in the top, some idiots, some woke liberal goofballs. Particularly this lady right here. I'd like to see him get rid of this guy, the CEO, because he let it happen. You know he knew. Because they were testing the waters with Dylan Mulvaney. They were testing the waters. They sent him a beer can. And then if the world went, oh, this is wonderful. This is great. If the world did that, boom, Dylan Mulvaney would be making $15 million a year as the leading spokesperson for Bud Light. It didn't go that way. It went very wrong for them. In a very right way. But now it's time to rechart our courses. Bud Light knows their error. They know the error in their way. They know what they did wrong. They know that they went with a wrong mindscape on the whole advertising marketing of their beer. They were still the number 1 beer in the world, I believe. They said they were declining as the number 1. But they were still better than number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So they got greedy. And they said, let's do this with the transgender right now because that seems to be a popular thing in the woke community. It was a mistake. Big mistake. And I love that they paid. They paid dearly, out the nose. But now it's time to stop, I think. And I think Dana White is sending a message. Let's see the upside, the positive view, and maybe the fact that, let's trust it, maybe the fact that Dana White's a pretty intelligent guy because he has lifted the UFC and MMA fighting, a brutal sport. At one time, McCain, that goofball, he's dead, so I don't want to go too hard on him, but that goofball made it his battle to end the UFC because he didn't like the fact that there was fisticuffs going on and it was brutal and it was harsh and they didn't have super big pillows on their hands. He even tried to end the UFC and they couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. It got bigger, better, stronger, badder. And Dana White was there for most of that, if not all of that. I think I just caught a fly. All right, so Dana White was there for all that. And he's been instrumental, obviously, in the growth of one of the biggest sports that's out there right now. Exciting sports. But he remembered his roots. He remembered who supported him early in the game. He remembered that Bud Light was there for him early. And he also is a smart enough man to know that Bud Light's probably better, but most likely has changed their ways in their corporate hire structure of marketing and said, we got to get some of this cancer out of here. We can't let these people make these big decisions. And we've got to remember that most of the world is not transgender and doesn't want to be represented by transgender. They just want to drink their beer after hard weeks of work. And maybe that could be transgenders, but that doesn't need to be the billboard. Better not be the billboard. Because majorities matter. Minorities matter too. But you can't push them to the top and hold them up there. They've got to rise to the top. Somebody tried to push them to the top. Some white liberal lady who, you know how that goes. You get these white liberals. They're really dangerous people. Very dangerous people. Because they want to push people to the front of the line. They don't want that person to wait in that line and earn their spot in that line and be patient and get to where it goes. They want to push them because they want to say, hey, this person, they deserve special rights. But Dana White, I stand behind Dana White. And I'm going to keep drinking Busch Light because it's still an Anheuser product. So that still supports the company to a degree. But it's time to stop, people. The boycott was successful. I believe it really was a wake-up call for all big businesses that we, the people, need to send to Bud Light, which in turn was hopefully a message to all the other big companies. Don't try this because it could very, very well turn around and bite you in the face. Bite you in the face is what it did. It didn't even bite him in the butt, right on the face. And I think it was a huge thing, a great thing, but I think you got to know when to walk away. You got to know when to change that path, change your mindset, and say, okay, I have to trust that this big company learned their lesson, and now I have to think about the people of America. I have to think about whether it be America or Germany or any Europe or Asian country, continent, whatever. I have to think about the people that are working for that company that need their paycheck. They need their jobs. We can't let this keep affecting our people now. It's time to say, okay, now if you screw up again, I may never come back. Screw me once, screw me twice. You know that saying. But now I think it's time, people. I hope people watching this and anybody else thinks this way and says, hey, because I've seen a lot of these YouTubers are angry at Dana White because they just want to keep being mad, just to be mad. They don't want to stop being mad and turn the car around, go back on the other road, and go the direction they were going or wanted to go in the first place. And that was maybe to drink a Bud Light or get some groceries, whatever. But I think it's important, people, that we just kind of, and I'm not trying to be self-righteous about this whatsoever, or try to coax you into thinking a certain way. Let's think about the 60,000 employees of Bud Light. Now it's time to start thinking about them, and let's get them back on track, and let's keep Bud Light under a microscope for a while. But let's think about maybe being okay with this. You don't have to. You can just keep hating all your life, or you can just keep being angry at stuff, or you can just cut off your nose, spite your face. It's up to you. Me, I see the good in it. I actually do. And I'm not the biggest, hugest fan of Dana White. Trust me. I don't always agree with that guy. And I don't always like what he says and he does. I don't. But what I do like is he does have some wisdom. He does have something about him that allows me to trust him to a degree. So, think about that, people. And then reapply that to other things in your life. I try to. It's hard. It's kind of like the forgiving thing in the Bible. It's such a hard thing to do because there's so many things I haven't forgiven yet that I need to forgive. And there are relationships and there are people that I got to go back to and I got to say, hey, who cares about all that crap? We don't have much life left on earth. Let's maybe rethink about this or not think about that at all and start thinking about more positive things and create and rebuild a future with those people if you want those people in your life. That's the thing about forgiveness, because there's some people that was meant to be. You were meant to cross that road and go one way and they go the other. So don't force anything. But maybe, just maybe, those people are like, oh man, we're on the same road as Rich. I can see him over there. I wish we were on the very same road. We're going the same direction, but we're not on the same road. Or we're not in the same car. We're on the same road on the left and the right lane. And there's Rich, and I wish I was in his car. Or there's Bill, I wish I was in his car. Or there's Sam or Craig or whatever the name is. Sarah, Dorothy, whatever. Connie, I like the name Connie. I wish I was over in Connie's car, and we're just driving down the road. We can't even talk. We're right here. You know what? Look over there and say, hey, pull over. Get out, get in the car. Hey, I'm coming with you. Now you're driving down the road with a friend, family member, whatever it may be. That it's time. It's time to revisit that relationship, maybe. Maybe not, guys. Trust me. I've got a couple friends, a couple relationships that I don't want to revisit. I don't want to go back to. But I do have some that are open that I need to fix. Maybe you do too. One of those friends is Bud Light. I'm gonna jump in Bud Light's car probably. And I'm gonna drive down the road with Bud Light. And I'm gonna say, hey, friend, let's have a drink. Let's talk about something. And if Bud Light still's talking about Dylan Mulvaney, then I'm going to say, hey, Bud Light, pull the car back over. Let me out. And then I'm going to go get back in Busch Light's car. And then Busch Light starts talking about Dylan Mulvaney. I'm going to get out. And maybe I'm not going to even get in another car. And I'm just going to walk. You have these options. You have these choices. Think about it. Think about the people, though. Think about the 60,000 Americans that work for Bud Light that are hurting right now and are in fear for their future and their jobs. It's not really about the alcohol or the drink. It's more about the people. And then if they make another mistake, trust me, I'll be the first to walk away as well. That's my enlightenment for today. No knives talk. No, none of that stuff. I just wanted to talk about Bud Light, UFC, Dana White, us, people, Americans, Irishmen, Russians, Ukrainians, Israelis, Palestinians. Maybe we gotta find our roads, do our thing, do whatever I just said. Maybe figure out a way to where we don't have to fight, don't have to argue, don't have to be separate when we want to be together. Or stay separate because we wanted to be separate. Let's be smart about things. That's all I got. Deuces.